Jerry Van, and this is UMD News. Today we have a special on Prairie View Elementary in the Eden Prairie District. Off to you, Amelia, on some history of education.
My name is Amelia Erickson, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the history of education. Looking back at the first schools to where we are now is pretty amazing. We went from one-room classrooms with all different grades and ages to lecture halls designed specifically for just one specific course. Schools have evolved in positive and negative ways. The one-room classrooms that we see in movies and hear in books must have been quite an experience. Teachers had to think of curriculums that 6-year-olds could follow as well as 10-year-olds. A teacher couldn't put together a lesson plan that every student could follow. Some children could not read, so the teacher had to accommodate to their skills. Some children could read, but were not as up to par as the top students, so the teacher would have to accommodate to them. The instructor would need to prepare enough work for all ages. Boarding schools have been around since the 1700s. Indian boarding schools took off in the 1800s. The Carlisle Indian School is one that particularly sticks out to me. It was an Indian boarding school founded in 1879 in Carlisle, Pennsylvania. The school was the first off-reservation boarding school and became a model for Indian boarding schools. This was one of many schools where the government tried to take over thousands of children from 39 tribes and turn them into the majority culture. The goal of these schools was to civilize the Indian, get them into civilization, to keep them civilized and let them stay. Public schools expanded in the 19th century in the South. Athletics became popular in public schools. By 1918, all American children were required to attend at least elementary school. At the turn of the 20th century, schools in the South and in the North were still very segregated. After the Brown versus Board of Education, public schools became open to all races, but it still wasn't easy for everyone.
When we asked Carol Meyer, the principal of Prairie View Elementary, how the school got to be the way they are today, she responded with, "This school has always been first and foremost child-centered. Teachers here all are committed to making sure that we keep the students' best interest first when making decisions. We spend time on making sure we are consistent in our expectations of student respect, caring, and responsibility. All adults are here to implement those same principles. We hold high expectations for our students and require that all staff hold to that. I also think that this school has always had a reputation for warmth, friendliness, and caring. Staff take pride in the reputation they are committed to continuing."
And now back to Jerry for more information about Eden Prairie education.
Thanks, Amelia. And now I'll be talking about what education means to Eden Prairie schools.
When we asked Carol Meyer how they defined education at Prairie View Elementary, she replied with, "Their new mission statement is, inspire each student to learn continuously so they are empowered to reach personal fulfillment and contribute purposely to our ever-changing world." She also added, "We place an emphasis on meeting the individual needs of each student."
Eden Prairie Schools is trying to make their education system better for the students by putting commitments and by providing high-quality learning environments. Eden Prairie Schools' mission statement is inspire each student to learn continuously so they are empowered to reach personal fulfillment and contribute purposefully to our ever-changing world. In order to achieve success in education, they make sure to have good, fully licensed, and high-qualified teachers to teach the students. One of the biggest challenges that Eden Prairie are trying to do is to close up the achievement gap. Every year, the MCA average scores of the students in Eden Prairie are increasing, and the reading skills over at Eden Prairie are improving, and this comes from the help of the teachers and parents who help their students. Looking at this graph, the red is Eden Prairie schools and the black one is school all over Minnesota. The graph compares Eden Prairie schools reading MCA results with Minnesota. As you can see, Eden Prairie's scores are higher than the average in Minnesota in all grades, along with math. Teachers come together to discuss about curriculums and what they can do to help students pass the standards in Minnesota. Eden Prairie schools get parents involved to help when students are outside of school. This way, students can receive encouragement and academic support from their family. Research shows that when the students receive support from their parents, they tend to do better in school. Teachers help students by looking at results of previous tests. In this way, they know where the students are having problems in education. And now, Maddie will talk about how they demonstrate this with philosophy and curriculum.
Thanks, Jerry. I believe that Eden Prairie Schools is based off idealism because they focus on everyone and the cultures they're from. Eden Prairie Schools do not just focus on one thing that they believe is right. They take from all cultures and combine them. They focus on the goals of the student to have them achieve everything they possibly can. In the mission statement, Eden Prairie mentions that student reaching personal fulfillment. They are not forcing the student to be at a certain point at all times. It is wherever they can try their hardest to be. Eden Prairie also prepares their students to be independent in the future as they grow and things change around them. Eden Prairie Schools demonstrates these goals through their curriculum. Eden Prairie is a very well-rounded school and it covers a lot of philosophies as a result of that. First off, Eden Prairie focuses on character development and focuses on the student being the best they can be. To make this possible, I believe that behaviorism and character development are important to the teachers. Eden Prairie has a very wide variety of students, including many with mental illnesses. ADHD can cause a lot of problems in the classroom. To solve these distractions and problems, the teachers alter the classroom. This demonstrates behaviorism. The teachers have all the students change their routine, not just the problem child. The classrooms change by making quick transitions between activities. By only doing a certain activity for a short amount of time, the teacher can keep all the students' attention, and particularly the problem students' attention. Another philosophy Eden Prairie focuses on is character development. Eden Prairie Schools offices have very good counseling staff. If a student is particularly misbehaving, they have lunch in the office for the rest of the week. During lunch, the student will talk about what they did wrong and how they will change their behavior. Another way Eden Prairie demonstrates character development is by having presentations from the counselors and police officers throughout the year. During these presentations, they talk about bullying and other bad behaviors. They also teach what they can do to be a good and respectful student. In Eden Prairie's mission statement, they state that they prepare their students to contribute purposely to our ever-changing world. This part of the mission statement is a demonstration of essentialism and progressivism. This demonstrates essentialism because the school prepares students with the skills and knowledge that control life situations, or at least begin to. It's hard to teach an elementary student how to be able to control their future, but the school can teach them how to be a problem solver and a critical thinker to contribute to the changing world. This demonstrates progressivism. They begin to teach how to solve problems in the child's life.
When we asked Carol Meyer how she feels the school demonstrates their definition of education, she replied with, "We make sure that curriculum is culturally relevant so it fits for all students, including diverse students. We use outside grants and funding sources to provide reading and math support outside the school day in order to help struggling students. We spend a lot of time looking at data of all our student groups to see how they are performing at our school. Our priority is to address gaps where learning is not occurring at the same pace we would like to see. We continue to work on closing the achievement gap."
Eden Prairie has a very student-focused curriculum. The teachers focus on the needs of each individual student in their classroom. In order to have a student-based curriculum, it takes a lot of time and work. The teacher must take the time to learn the needs and struggles of each student. Once the teacher has accomplished this, it's smooth sailing. Focusing on the student will help them perform their personal best. The teacher focuses on what they need to work on and what they excel at. To demonstrate this, the teachers focus on doing small group activities or one-on-one activities with the students. For example, during reading time, the teacher will have multiple stations for that block of time. Each group will be separated by level to make the process more smooth. One station will be doing an activity with the assistance of the assistant teacher. The next station will be the children reading on their own silently. The final station will be a group of 3 to 4 students at a table with the teacher. During this time, the students take turns reading out loud with the teacher. The teacher can then focus on the student and fix what they specifically need help with. Eden Prairie is a very well-rounded school by applying many different philosophies and focusing on the individual needs of the students. This is what makes Eden Prairie such a successful school. And now back to Amelia to talk about the future of schooling.
Thanks, Maddie. I'm going to talk about the futures of schooling. We've tried to make schools as accessible to children as we can. We try to accommodate to children and family needs. We've entered a new era in schools with technology. Technology has taken a huge leap in people's everyday lives as well as in schools. When I was in elementary school, the teachers have read grade books that they wrote our grades in. Now you'll find that every teacher is equipped with a computer so they can do their grades as well as lesson plans and other projects they need to do. Schools like Prairie are even fortunate enough to offer children laptops to use and take home. Sometimes people bring up the question, do we rely too much on electronics and the internet? I used to think, absolutely, but as we keep progressing and advancing with technology, I think the new question is, where do we stop with technology? My uncle's a pretty prestigious doctor who was talking to me about technology and education recently. He was telling me about how it can be tough for any speaker to plan a lecture for people because people have more information in the phone in their pocket than what the lecturer has to offer. Of course, we aren't always supposed to have access to our phones. It's just one of many things to think of when it comes to education and technology. Technology has already taken a number of jobs, such as customer service and cashiering. I wonder, will technology continue taking more jobs, or will it continue to help people with their professions? In my opinion, schools have definitely been changing for the better. Schools are not going to go backwards with technology and take it away. They will only keep expanding and think of different ways of using it. Hopefully, with all these advancements and everything we've already learned, technology will steer us in a positive direction for bettering children's education.
Finally, we asked Carol Meyer if the school has any future plans. She replied with, most recently we have been working on the professional learning community. Teachers at each grade level must meet weekly to discuss curriculum, assessments, and the students. We pursue consistency and collaboration between members on the team. Strong teams equal great student results. We are also looking at expanding the use of digital pieces such as laptops and iPads. This move will continue to help us individualize learning.
Thanks, Jerry and Amelia. To wrap things up, Prairie is an outstanding school district, and they demonstrate this with philosophy and reason. The schools combine all cultures to create a curriculum that is relevant to every student involved. They prepare students to their future and help each with individual goals. Prairie is a student-focused school, and its goal is to close the achievement gap as much as possible. The institution has great goals for their future and hope to become the best schools they can possibly be. Thank you for watching.